execution at the beginning of a project, we can be rest assured that we are going to, and unfortunately, I've been there in this industry, or I have an experience of more than 16, 17 years. Trust me that we have faced many situations where we did not actually look into the taxation and the laws into that micro level detailing, and we had to face problems in terms of schedule, in terms of time, in terms of cost. It actually affected us. So we need to, these are some of the key success factors that need to be very clear while we are preparing the project execution plan. So what is the strategy that we need to adopt? Communication procedure. Right at the beginning of the project, when in the project execution plan, the communication procedure, the communication protocol should be very clearly defined. There are a lot of stakeholders involved. There's a lot of possibility for chaos to erupt at a time when we would least want it. So it's very important to have a proper communication procedure with the right flow of inputs, process, and the output, and the stakeholders and the key people, the key parties which are involved in the communication procedure. So execution strategy should have a very well defined communication procedure. The other thing is that for the item which should be covered in the project execution plan is a productivity analysis. Now, this is productivity analysis is basically how much you are spending and how much you are earning. So based on a proper and an effective productivity analysis mechanism, we would come to know much earlier of project execution that what is the estimate to complete and the expected at completion. So ETC and EAC will depend on how effective our productivity analysis mechanism has been defined. Then one of the things that we should always, we have been using as a execution strategy tool is an action and decision register. So what happens, now I'll tell you how we have been using it. Maybe many of you must be using this particular register with a different name, maybe an action item register, or an action item log, or an event log register. The basic idea of having an action and decision register is that whatever, I'll just give you an example. Now we have a minutes of meeting. Generally we have those meetings which take place, and the minutes of meetings are prepared. The MOMs, they are just part of an MOM, and the MOM tracking takes place in isolation. The basic fundamental of having an action decision register is that instead of preparing a minutes of meeting, we put all those items in the action and decision register. So every item which is discussed, which requires an action or a decision post meeting, is logged in the action decision register, and that is monitored. So at the end of a particular project execution, maybe 1.5 years or 2 years, whatever is the duration, we have a complete log of action and decision register where the items are mentioned. What we do is we also mention the raised forum, whether it was raised in a minute meeting, or whether it was raised through an email which we had received, or it was part of a directive that we received from some particular stakeholder. So that raised forum is always mentioned, and we write down what is the action, what is the decision that needs to be taken up, and we keep monitoring what action has been taken, what is the status, and if the action is closed or not. So at the last of this particular worksheet, we have a column which talks of open stroke closed. So it's open/closed. The moment an action is taken, the action date is recorded, the action decision is recorded, and it's marked as closed. So that is then that's the beauty of this action decision register, that even maybe after 1 month or 1.5 months, somebody might say, what was the decision that was taken place? And we already have it in the action decision register. So it's a very exhaustive log which is maintained, and it's really helpful. We have been using it and in all the projects, and it has been very helpful in terms of for getting the output. Then we need to have a proper infrastructure and IT sector in place before for the executions, for effective executions as part of an effective execution strategy. Earned value management, the SPI, the CPI, and all those stuff, that's very important. The earned value analysis, the planned value, PV, EV, AC, that gives the health of a particular project. So that's again part of the tool of execution strategy. Review meeting schedule. It should be very clear right at the beginning of, or it should be part of the project execution plan, the schedule of review meetings, because that gives a directive. That's a proper calendar with the stakeholders involved and the main coordinator of the meeting. Procurement and subcontract procedure, we'll get into details of this as we go along. Then we have the change management. Another thing which we have been stressing on at the beginning of the project execution plan, because we need to have a very clear-cut, very well-defined change management mechanism right at the project execution plan stage itself. The reason is very simple. The changes come at a time when everybody is more than occupied and they are more than busy, and that is the last moment where we would want to involve, or where we would want to utilize or divert our minds and our efforts in evolving a procedure. So change management is part of the project execution plan. Risk management again is part of the project execution plan as an effective execution strategy. We will get into the details. One of the things that we have been doing, especially as an EPC organization, and more relevant to engineering organization, which again is applicable to all other industries as well, that we also have a third eye review. Now, third eye review is at the start of a project, we list down the deliverables, the output or the deliverable output that is to be given or passed on to the customer, end customer. Some of these deliverables are very critical in nature, and we would want a third eye perspective from a person who is not part of this particular execution, who is not part of the task force, and who is totally, but who is an experienced person and expert in the field which is being executed. But it should be very clear that the person should not be, because the moment a person becomes part of the task force, that person cannot do a third eye review. So that person is biased. So we always have a third eye review of only the critical items which are flagged at the beginning of a project. Then an effective S-curve and schedule, proper reporting mechanism, and the closeout. Again, we will get into the details of these things as and when. A typical organization, again, like I said, I belong to the oil and gas sector and the EPC sector. So we generally have a project manager, and there's also a project director. Then we have a PEM, a project engineering manager. Under that person, there are project engineers who are controlling or who are coordinating with the various engineering disciplines like mechanical, instrumentation, electrical, process, piping, civil, structure, architecture. Then we have a procurement manager. The basic four things that are part of the procurement management: there is a buyer, there is an expediter. Like I said, that we deal with projects which are of a very high magnitude. So there are different mechanical equipment, there might be a transformer, there might be heat exchangers, there might be compressors, and all of these are given to the approved vendors or the manufacturers who are of global standard, but they are all overloaded, so there needs to be an expediter who expedites the manufacturing of fabrication. So it's a proper work in itself, it's a proper role in itself, it's a full-time role. Then there's an inspection and logistics. Again, since they are high value and oversized and overweight, over-dimensioned or overweight items maybe, or even the smaller items, they need to be, they are from, like I said, we might be executing a project in Gujarat, but we might have the compressor from Europe. So the logistics also plays a very, very, very vital part in the entire project organization. Then we have the site manager, we have the resident manager, we have the field control manager, which is the equivalent of a project control manager in a design